When human spices met alien biology, the massive trading station known as Nexus Prime floated silently in the neutral zone between 17 different star systems. Its gleaming metal surfaces reflected the light of 3 nearby suns, creating a beacon that could be seen from millions of miles away. This was the heart of galactic commerce, where species from across the galaxy came to trade goods, share knowledge, and maintain the delicate peace that had existed for over 2 centuries. Captain Maria Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the human vessel New Horizon, watching the station grow larger on her view screen. Her dark eyes held a mixture of excitement and nervousness as she adjusted her crisp blue uniform. This was humanity's first major trade mission to the Galactic Council, and the weight of representing her entire species pressed heavily on her shoulders. Behind her, the crew worked quietly at their stations, each one aware that they were making history. "Captain, we're receiving docking instructions from Station Control," reported Lieutenant Chen from the communications station. His voice was steady, but Maria could hear the underlying tension that they all felt. "Thank you, Lieutenant. Take us in slow and steady. We want to make a good first impression." Maria turned to address her science officer, Dr. Elena Vasquez, who was reviewing data on her tablet. Elena was a brilliant xenobiologist who had volunteered for this mission, despite having never left Earth's solar system before. Her expertise in alien life forms would be crucial in the coming negotiations. "Dr. Vasquez, are our cultural gifts ready for presentation?" Maria asked. Elena looked up with a slight smile. "Everything is prepared, Captain. We have samples of coffee, chocolate, various spices, fruits, and some prepared dishes that represent different Earth cultures. The diplomatic team thought it would be a good way to show our diversity and peaceful intentions." The New Horizon docked with a gentle thud that barely registered through the ship's advanced dampening systems. Within an hour, the human delegation was walking through the corridors of Nexus Prime, marveling at the incredible diversity of alien life forms around them. Tall, graceful beings with crystal-like skin walked alongside short, furry creatures with multiple arms. Floating entities that seemed to be made of pure energy drifted past mechanical beings whose bodies clinked and whirred with each step. The trading hall was enormous, with a ceiling that stretched so high it seemed to touch the stars themselves. Hundreds of stalls and booths filled the space, each one representing a different world or species. The air was filled with strange sounds, exotic smells, and languages that the universal translators worked hard to convert into understandable speech. Ambassador Thekrin of the Zephyrian Republic approached the human delegation first. The Zephyrians were known throughout the galaxy for their diplomatic skills and their unusual appearance. Thekrin stood nearly 8 feet tall, with pale blue skin that seemed to shimmer in the artificial light. His elongated head contained 3 eyes arranged in a triangle, and his voice had a musical quality that made even the most serious conversation sound like poetry. "Welcome, humans of Earth," Thekrin said, extending a 4-fingered hand in greeting. "We have heard much about your species and are curious to learn more about your culture and capabilities." Maria shook the offered hand, surprised by how warm and soft it felt despite its alien appearance. "Thank you for the welcome, Ambassador. We're honored to be here and excited to share what humanity has to offer." The formal introduction ceremony took place in the station's Grand Assembly Hall, where representatives from dozens of species gathered to observe the newest potential members of the galactic community. Maria gave a carefully prepared speech about Earth's history, human achievements, and their desire for peaceful cooperation with all galactic neighbors. After the ceremony, a great feast was arranged in the human delegation's honor. This was a traditional way of welcoming new species to the galactic community, and each race was expected to contribute something to the meal. The humans had brought a variety of their finest foods, carefully selected to represent the best of Earth's culinary traditions. Dr. Vasquez supervised the preparation of the human contribution to the feast. She had worked with Earth's finest chefs to create dishes that would be both appealing and safe for alien consumption. There were mild curries with carefully measured spices, chocolate desserts, coffee drinks, and fresh fruits arranged in beautiful displays. Everything had been tested for basic toxicity, but there was no way to predict how different alien biologies might react to human food. The feast began with great ceremony, and the various alien species shared their traditional foods with enthusiasm. The humans tried strange fruits that tasted like music, meats from creatures they had never imagined, and beverages that seemed to change color as they were consumed. Everything was new and exciting, and the atmosphere was one of genuine friendship and curiosity. Then came time for the aliens to try human food. Ambassador Thekrin was among the first to approach the human table, his 3 eyes examining the colorful display with interest. He selected a small portion of chicken curry, inhaling the rich aroma of the spices before taking a careful bite. The reaction was immediate and unexpected. Thekrin's 3 eyes widened simultaneously, and his pale blue skin began to flush with deeper shades of purple and gold. He made a sound that the universal translator struggled to interpret, something between a gasp and a song. Then he began to move in ways that no Zephyrian had ever moved before, his long limbs flowing like liquid as he performed what could only be described as an ecstatic dance. "More," he whispered, reaching for another portion of the curry. "I must have more of this incredible sensation." Other aliens began to notice Thekrin's unusual behavior and gathered around to watch. Some laughed, thinking it was part of some human entertainment, but Dr. Vasquez immediately recognized that something was seriously wrong. This was not a normal reaction to food. A Corvan trader, whose species was known for their calm and logical nature, tried a small piece of chocolate cake. Within minutes, he was giggling uncontrollably and speaking in rapid bursts about colors that he could taste and sounds that he could see. His gnarly gray skin had turned bright orange, and his companions struggled to hold him still as he attempted to hug everyone within reach. The situation quickly escalated as more aliens tried human food and experienced similar dramatic reactions. A group of Meridian scientists sampled coffee and immediately began speaking at incredible speed, their minds racing with new ideas and connections they had never made before. They started drawing complex mathematical equations in the air with their fingers, claiming they could suddenly understand the fundamental nature of the universe. Dr. Vasquez rushed from alien to alien, trying to assess their conditions and provide help where she could. Her medical scanner showed elevated heart rates, unusual brain activity, and hormone levels that were completely outside normal ranges for each species. Whatever was happening, it was affecting their neurochemistry in profound ways. "Captain," she called out to Maria, who was trying to calm a panicking Altarian whose crystalline body was pulsing with rapidly changing colors. "We need to evacuate our people immediately. Something in our food is causing severe psychoactive reactions in alien biology." But it was too late to prevent the panic that was beginning to spread throughout the feast hall. Aliens who had not yet tried human food were backing away in fear, while those who had were exhibiting increasingly erratic behavior. Security forces began to arrive, unsure how to handle a situation where dozens of different species were all acting completely out of character. High Chancellor Vextar of the Dominion, the most powerful political entity in the local galaxy, demanded an immediate explanation. His species, the Vecti, resembled large reptiles with sophisticated technology integrated into their bodies. His voice boomed through speakers in his throat as he spoke. "What have you done to our people, humans? Is this some kind of attack? Some new form of chemical warfare disguised as hospitality?" Maria tried to explain that the food was completely normal for humans and that they had no idea it would affect aliens this way. But her words were lost in the chaos. Medical teams arrived to treat the affected aliens, and within hours the entire station was in quarantine mode. Dr. Vasquez worked tirelessly alongside alien medical personnel to understand what had happened. Her analysis revealed something that would change everything they thought they knew about human biology and its place in the galaxy. The common spices that humans used in their food contained compounds that acted as powerful psychoactive substances when they interacted with alien neurochemistry. Black pepper contained piperine, which triggered euphoric responses in Zephyrian brain chemistry. Capsaicin from chili peppers caused hallucinogenic effects in Corvin physiology. Caffeine from coffee acted as a superstimulant for meridian nervous systems. Even seemingly harmless substances like vanilla and cinnamon were causing unprecedented reactions in various alien species. The discovery sent shockwaves through the galactic community. Here was a species that had, apparently unknowingly, developed and consumed what amounted to a vast arsenal of psychoactive compounds. From the alien perspective, every human meal was potentially a drug laboratory, and every human was potentially carrying substances that could alter alien consciousness in unpredictable ways. As word spread throughout the galaxy, fear began to replace curiosity about humanity. If humans could accidentally create such powerful effects with their everyday food, what else might they be capable of? What other secrets might their biology hold? The questions multiplied faster than the answers, and trust began to erode as quickly as it had been built. Dr. Vasquez continued her research, determined to find a solution. She discovered that the effects were dosage-dependent, and that with proper preparation and portion control, human foods could be made safe for alien consumption. But the damage to humanity's reputation had already been done, and the seeds of the coming ban had already been planted in the minds of fearful alien leaders. The feast that was meant to celebrate humanity's entry into the galactic community had instead become the catalyst for their potential exclusion from it. As Maria looked out at the stars from her quarters that night, she wondered if their species would ever recover from this catastrophic first impression, and whether the galaxy would ever trust humans again. The price of misunderstanding. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened just 48 hours after what the media had begun calling the human food incident. The great chamber of Nexus Prime had never seen such tension, with representatives from over 200 worlds gathered to decide the fate of humanity's place in galactic society. The normally calm and orderly proceedings were charged with fear, anger, and confusion as species after species demanded answers about the human chemical threat. High Chancellor Vexstar presided over the session from his elevated platform, his reptilian features set in grim determination. The integrated technology in his body hummed with activity as he processed incoming reports from across the galaxy. Each new piece of information seemed to make the situation worse for humanity. "The evidence before us is clear," Vexstar announced, his artificial voice echoing through the chamber. "What humans call food contains substances that can alter the mental state, physical capabilities, and behavioral patterns of virtually every known species in our galaxy. Whether this was intentional or accidental is irrelevant. The threat is real and immediate." Captain Maria Rodriguez sat in the designated human section, flanked by Dr. Elena Vasquez and the rest of her diplomatic team. They had been allowed to remain for the proceedings, but it was clear that they were no longer welcome guests. They were defendants in a trial that would determine not just their own fate, but the future relationship between humanity and the rest of the galaxy. Ambassador Thekrin took the floor to give his testimony, though he was barely recognizable as the dignified diplomat who had welcomed them just days before. The Zephyrian's normally pale blue skin still showed traces of the purple and gold coloration that had appeared during his reaction to the curry. His 3 eyes darted nervously as he spoke, and his musical voice had taken on a harsh, desperate quality. "Honored council members," Thekrin began, "I stand before you as living proof of the danger these humans represent. Their spices have fundamentally altered my brain chemistry. I find myself craving their food with an intensity that terrifies me. My medical team tells me that the compounds are still affecting my neural pathways, and they cannot predict when or if I will return to normal." Murmurs of shock and concern rippled through the assembly. The idea that human food could cause lasting changes was worse than anyone had imagined. Dr. Vasquez leaned forward in her seat, wanting desperately to explain that the effects should be temporary, but she had not been given permission to speak. The Corvin trader who had consumed the chocolate cake was brought forward next. His normally gray skin was still tinged with orange, and he giggled softly as he tried to give coherent testimony. The humans made me taste colors and hear flavors, he said, breaking into laughter at his own words. I cannot focus on my work. I cannot conduct business. Everything seems funny or beautiful or strange. They have broken my mind with their sweet poison. Representative after representative came forward with similar stories. A Meridian scientist reported that her colleagues who had consumed coffee were still experiencing racing thoughts and insomnia 3 days later. An Altarian crystalline being displayed fractal patterns in his body that had not existed before eating human bread, patterns that seemed to pulse with their own rhythm. Each testimony painted the same picture. Humans were dangerous. Their food was a weapon, and allowing them into galactic society would be a catastrophic mistake. The fear in the chamber was palpable, and Maria could see that many of the representatives had already made up their minds before the session had even begun. When Captain Rodriguez was finally called to speak in humanity's defense, she stood with as much dignity as she could muster. Her voice was steady, but she could feel the weight of hundreds of alien eyes upon her, most of them filled with suspicion and hostility. Honored members of the council, she began, I stand before you today not as a threat, but as a representative of a species that has only ever wanted peace and friendship with our galactic neighbors. The reactions you have witnessed were completely unexpected to us. In all of human history, we have never encountered a situation where our food could affect other beings in this way. She gestured to Dr. Vasquez, who stood and activated a holographic display showing the molecular structures of various human food compounds. Our xenobiologist, Dr. Vasquez, has been working tirelessly to understand what happened. Her research shows that the effects are entirely due to the unique biochemical differences between our species and yours. What is harmless nutrition for us becomes something entirely different in your biology. Dr. Vasquez stepped forward, her scientific mind racing with possibilities for explanation and solution. If I may address the council, she said, the compounds in question exist in human food because of our evolutionary history. On Earth, these substances helped our ancestors survive by providing energy, alertness, and various health benefits. We had no way of knowing that they would interact with alien biochemistry in these ways. She highlighted different molecular structures on her display. Capsaicin, the compound that makes peppers spicy for humans, triggers pain receptors that we have adapted to enjoy. In Corvin physiology, it interacts with completely different neural pathways, causing the hallucinogenic effects you witnessed. Caffeine stimulates human alertness in small doses, but meridian nervous systems are far more sensitive to its effects. High Chancellor Vextar interrupted with a dismissive gesture. Your explanations do not change the facts, human. Whether intentional or not, you have brought chemical weapons into our peaceful trading station. The safety of our citizens must come first. The vote was swift and decisive. By an overwhelming majority, the Galactic Council voted to implement what they called the Human Food Safety Protocol. All human food products were immediately classified as controlled substances, and their import, export, or possession within Council territory was strictly forbidden. Any violation would be treated as an act of biological warfare, punishable by imprisonment or expulsion from Council space. The ban extended far beyond simple prohibition. Human ships were subject to intensive searches at every checkpoint. Human colonies within Council territory were required to destroy all traditional food stores and survive on approved synthetic nutrition blocks. Human restaurants that had begun appearing on various worlds were shut down immediately, their owners arrested and their equipment confiscated. The economic impact on humanity was devastating, but the psychological impact was worse. Food was not just nutrition for humans. It was culture, tradition, and identity. Families that had passed down recipes for generations were suddenly criminals for attempting to maintain their heritage. Human diplomats found themselves unwelcome at official functions where meals were served, and trade negotiations became nearly impossible when basic hospitality could not be extended. But the ban created an unexpected consequence that the Council had not anticipated. Within weeks of its implementation, a black market began to emerge for human food products. Aliens who had experienced the effects were seeking ways to obtain them again, despite the legal risks. Ambassador Thekrin, despite his public testimony about the dangers, was discovered attempting to purchase black pepper from smugglers. The Corvin trader who had giggled uncontrollably after eating chocolate cake was found to have paid enormous sums for small amounts of cacao powder. Dr. Kelaseth, a prominent Meridian scientist, became the unlikely leader of what could only be described as an underground resistance movement. Unlike her colleagues who had publicly condemned human food, she had been quietly studying its effects in her private laboratory. Her research revealed something that the Council's hasty ban had overlooked. When properly dosed and prepared, human food compounds could have genuine therapeutic benefits for many alien species. Working in secret, Dr. Kelaseth reached out to Dr. Vasquez through encrypted communications. Their covert collaboration began to yield remarkable results. They discovered that minute amounts of capsaicin could treat chronic pain in Corvin physiology. Controlled doses of caffeine could help Meridians with attention disorders. Even the compounds in chocolate showed promise as antidepressants for certain species. What your species calls food, Dr. Kelaseth explained during one of their secret meetings, could revolutionize medicine across the galaxy. But fear has blinded my people to the possibilities. They see only danger where there could be healing. Meanwhile, the criminal organizations that had emerged to supply the black market for human food were becoming increasingly bold and violent. Smuggling rings raided human colonies, stealing food supplies and selling them at astronomical prices. Pirates began targeting human cargo ships, not for traditional valuables, but for their mess hall supplies. The situation was spiraling out of control, creating exactly the kind of instability that the ban had been intended to prevent. Captain Rodriguez, now effectively exiled to the outer rim of Council space, worked with other human leaders to find a solution. They knew that the current situation was unsustainable for everyone involved. Humans were suffering under the restrictions. Aliens were risking their lives and freedom to obtain forbidden substances, and criminals were profiting from the chaos. The breakthrough came when Dr. Kelaseth's research was discovered by Council security forces. Instead of being arrested, however, she was brought before a secret committee of progressive council members who had begun to question the effectiveness of the ban. Her data was compelling, showing not just the potential benefits of controlled human food consumption, but also the dangers of the unregulated black market that had emerged. Dr. Vasquez was secretly brought to testify before this committee, presenting months of collaborative research that she and Dr. Kelaseth had conducted. They demonstrated precise dosing methods, safe preparation techniques, and medical applications that could benefit millions of beings across the galaxy. The ban was created out of fear, Dr. Vasquez explained to the committee. But fear is not a good foundation for policy. Science, understanding, and careful regulation can turn what you saw as a threat into one of the greatest medical advances in galactic history. The committee's final report to the full council was a masterpiece of diplomatic language that allowed the council to reverse their position without admitting they had made a mistake. The Human Food Safety Protocol was modified to become the Human-Derived Therapeutic Substances Regulation Act, which established a framework for the controlled use of human food compounds for medical and research purposes. Under the new regulations, human foods were reclassified from prohibited substances to controlled medicines. Specially licensed facilities could import and process human food products under strict supervision. Qualified medical personnel could prescribe human-derived compounds for specific conditions. Cultural exceptions were granted, allowing humans to maintain their food traditions within designated areas. The change was not immediate or complete, but it was a beginning. Ambassador Thekrin became one of the first aliens to receive legal treatment with capsaicin-based medicine for a chronic pain condition that had plagued his species for generations. The Corvin trader who had been affected by chocolate worked with human confectioners to develop therapeutic confections that could treat depression in his people. Dr. Kelaseth and Dr. Vasquez were awarded the Council's highest honor for scientific cooperation, recognizing their work in transforming a crisis into an opportunity for unprecedented medical advancement. Their research facilities became models for interspecies collaboration, bringing together the best minds from across the galaxy to explore the untapped potential of cross-species biochemistry. Captain Rodriguez, restored to her position as Earth's primary diplomatic representative, reflected on the long journey from crisis to cooperation. The ban on human food had been born from fear and misunderstanding, but it had ultimately led to deeper knowledge and stronger relationships between species. Humans had learned that their place in the galaxy would require patience, understanding, and the willingness to help others see past their initial fears. The galaxy had learned that differences between species, even ones that seemed dangerous or threatening, could become sources of strength and healing when approached with wisdom and scientific curiosity. The human food crisis had tested the foundations of galactic civilization and ultimately made them stronger. As Maria looked out at the stars from her newly established embassy on Nexus Prime, she smiled at the irony. Humanity's greatest diplomatic crisis had been caused by something as simple as sharing a meal. But in the end, it was that same simple act of sharing food that had brought the galaxy together in ways that no one could have imagined. The ban had ended, but the lessons it taught about fear, understanding, and cooperation would last forever.